because at the end of the day, it's an investment product. While it may give you returns, there's also risk and downside.
Yeah.
So in general, for our investment products, we don't make it like very fun or have like stickers and things like that.
I thought it's just like your whole phone just like shines gold.
Like a lot of glitter or something like that.
All the icons all become gold.
There's no like sort of blanket answer, I would say, oh, you should put X% in this. Depends on each individual sort of situation.
Well, I always see on YouTube, get rich in 3 days, all that.
Okay, no, I do not advise that, please, Harish. So I think the idea that the gold is vaulted and stored in Singapore gives an additional sense of security to the product.
Does that make Singapore too boring though? Like we're so safe and everything. For the rest of the world, it's so exciting.
I think that's one of our key selling points. That we're very safe and stable.
That's your answer as CEO of MariBank, right? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
Today's a special episode where we're going to be talking something that is just current all the time.
I know, yeah. And it's something that's, I think like you were saying, on this podcast, we talk about the news with a good dose of what, right? So we want to talk about something very what also.
Very what, potentially very what.
Potentially very what,
which is, gold and investing and all that. And with us, we have someone very special who can tell us a lot more about it. And it is Natalia Goh, CEO of MariBank.
Yes, hi.
Yes.
Yeah, and I took extra pains to pronounce it the way you told me to.
Yeah.
But what is the proper way of pronouncing it? MariBank. MariBank. Yeah.
Thank you for asking, Harish.
Yeah.
So MariBank is pronounced Mari. We've heard different variants like Mary, Marie, and so on. But the correct way to pronounce it is Mari. And actually, Mari comes from the first word of our national anthem. So if you think about it, Mari kita, it's part of Majula. So it means actually come, or it means like let's in Malay. So like come bank or let's bank.
So that was the genesis of the name.
So MariBank is like come bank or like let's bank.
Let's bank together.
Yes.
I thought when you said it's the first word like Mari kita, I thought that was just a quirky way of remembering it. But there is some reason
so,
for the word
it comes from the same like Malay word, right? Which is Mari.
I did initially think it was something Japanese tied to it, like
I also
Marie Kondo, that kind of thing. Clean up your act. Clean up your act.
Tidy up your finances. No, it's Mari.
Okay. What's the funniest interpretation someone has asked about the name, if any?
Well, I think it's more the way that there are different ways I've heard it pronounced.
Okay.
Like MariBank.
And MariBank.
MariBank.
Yeah, that's a new one. That one new one.
There's more to do with me. Mary, I see.
Well, let's bank. That's the theme
That's
of
the
it.
idea behind it. Yeah. And I think really what we were trying to do with the name of the bank was to make it very welcoming. So the whole message behind Let's Bank or Come Bank is to say we're very, as a digital bank, we're very accessible, simple, very reliable, rewarding. So just come bank with us. Just try it out.
I see.
Yeah.
And how does that differ from, when people think about banks, usually it's like, office clothes and white collar and everything. How does that differ from your experience, your prior or at least what you know about the banking industry? How is this approach different?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start by sharing a little bit about my background. So I've been in banking for 18 years.
Wow.
18 years?
18 years, yeah. So I started out in traditional banking. So now I'm with the digital bank. So I think, to your question, right, Terence, I think how it's different is in terms of how we've tried to make banking a lot more approachable. So if you think about how we've set up in terms of you just download the app, you can open your account in 3 minutes. Everything is seamless and done through the app. So I think that's one way we're trying to differentiate. There's no more having to go down to branches, fill out physical forms, things like that. Yeah, so I think that's one way. I think the other one is the proposition, what we're trying to stand for in the market. Yeah. One is really around how the whole experience is very simple, but also very reliable, right? With the app and with the newest technology, we can ensure that certain layer of security, right? So there's that reliability. And then, of course, finally, that it's rewarding. So it's really how do we take all the sort of savings, if you will, from us not having to invest in physical infrastructure and give that back to consumers, in terms of cashback or rewards and so on.
And how long has MariBank been going on for?
So we launched the public in 2023. So we're still relatively new. I would say we're still sort of new and in a growth stage.
Okay. But how do you address the question, which I'm sure you get or often comes up, is a digital bank feels like something you can't touch and feel,
Right.
Whereas, anyone who's old enough to have their own finances and banking capabilities, they grew up in the age of retail banks. Have you faced people's apprehension when it comes to that, like putting money in a digital bank?
Yeah, so I think I think that's a valid question, right? Because I think, even also when I grew up, it's like you go to a bank branch, you see physical people in the branch, you see tellers or like sort of, advisors, financial advisors and so on. But I really think that today, with so many things in our lives becoming like digitally enabled, right? So whether it's like shopping, you can go online, do shopping, whether even like health now, with the government, number of apps that the government has rolled out, managing sort of health records, vaccination records, things like that. Everyone's very comfortable with sort of handling things digitally. So I think that banking should go that way. And the truth is, while we all kind of like the idea, maybe there's a bank branch I can turn to if I need to, but really, I don't know that many people like to go to a branch, queue up, get a number, meet someone in person to talk through things when you can actually do that through the app. So I think that's one thing we're trying to sort of come up with, to say that, hey, if you can do a lot of these things by yourself through the app, because it's just so easy to do it, it's so easy to find that feature you're looking for or find that service that you need, then you don't even need to go to a branch. So I think that's one, make it so much easier. I think the other thing is around the point around security, right? When people say, okay, if it's like a digital bank or if it's sort of newish, how do we think about security? And I think how we're trying to make it different is we're trying to think about security in a different way. So in the past, you might think of security in terms of like very thick walls. You see a physical security guard, that sort of thing. Now, I think when we think about security, we think about it differently, right? In terms of what is enabled by technology. One is the level of authentication and encryption that's available. But the other thing about security is also like if you open your app every day and it works well, right? Every day you open your app, you can see the interest that you earn on your bank account on a daily basis. You can track where your money is. You can put controls in your hand to say, I want to stop this transaction, or I want to put a limit on this transaction. I think that also gives people that sense of security and that assurance that's different than like a physical branch or like seeing a physical security guard in a branch type of security. Yeah.
But I mean, for you, like you mentioned that you started out 18 years ago in traditional banking, right?
Yes.
So was this wave of digital banking and all, how was it for you? Was it like a very big out of nowhere this came up and then you were shocked by it, or just over the years were you seeing it starting to happen slowly?
Yeah, I think it was evolving over the years. So it's definitely not like sort of a shock or like suddenly one day we just went from traditional to digital. I think increasingly, and a lot of it's enabled by technology, right? By changes and progress technology. So increasingly, and even today with all the traditional banks, every traditional bank now has a digital banking app.
Yeah.
Right? And it's also what consumers want. Because again, as we in terms of lifestyle changes, right now we're so comfortable with banking on the go, doing things on the go. So I think it's really an evolution of the industry rather than like an overnight change from traditional to digital or something like that. Yeah.
But like what you said, a lot of other banks out there have their own digital app, right? So then what still differentiates a digital bank from a regular traditional bank?
Actually, not too much. The only difference for us is that we can't have a physical presence or physical branch. But otherwise, in terms of MariBank, what we can do as a digital bank, we're basically able to do anything that a traditional bank can do, if you will.
Oh, I see. So, looking back at your experience, like in terms of what the offering to the consumer is, how different? You mentioned just now certain things like being able to see how much you've earned every day. And
Yes.
Is that something unique to MariBank and digital banks? And why, if it is?
Yeah, so I think one of the challenges for traditional banks is a lot of them are saddled with what we call legacy systems, right? So these are sort of, because they've been established for so many years, right? So the technology and the systems that sit behind them are also, have been around for a very long time. Whereas with digital banks, we're able to build on sort of new technology, we're able to build in the cloud. So I think that enables us to roll out features and roll out sort of new enhancements for users a lot more quickly and also allow us to kind of be very dynamic in terms of what we roll out. So I think one of the features that's quite unique to MariBank is the fact that when you put your savings, put money in with us, you see interest on a daily basis. You don't have to say, at the end of the month, I see this amount that's credited to my bank account, and then I have to figure out actually how many percent was that and how much interest I earn. And I think the other thing with traditional banks, a traditional product construct for a savings account is that typically it requires a few different sort of conditions, or not to say they make you jump through hoops, but typically it's like, okay, you have to make 5 transactions a month, each transaction of $50, then you can unlock, example, 0.5% interest rate. Then you make 3 bill payments, then you unlock another like 1%, then you buy a product, then you unlock. So then at the end of the month, maybe you get like 5% interest rate. But provided you do all those like 5 different or 6 different things. So the end of the month, when you get that lump sum interest rate, you're like, actually, how much did I actually earn? And if I didn't do all those things, like actually, how much do I earn? We're trying to change it by making it very, very transparent to our customers. So with MariBank, within the app, you see the interest you earn daily, you see the rate you earn, and we don't have any complicated conditions around kind of like do this, do that, then earn this interest rate. Yeah, so I think that's something that we've tried to differentiate, both for the savings account as well as for credit cards as well. When you spend and the cashback that you earn on your card, we try and make it sort of real time and something you can see immediately in the app.
I mean, hearing this, like, does it come from a generational difference in how people think about savings and how they think about their money? Because like a lot of times in Singapore, you know, we hear that older people, they kind of like, okay, I don't really want to like make all these decisions and kind of just as long as someone tells me what's the right thing to do, or you know, government tell me this is the best, then I do it lah. Whereas young people, maybe there's a bit of difference in how they view money. How do you feel the psychology of money has changed across the generations in Singapore?
Yeah, so I think, you know, one thing, I think there is a generational difference because of how banking has been offered throughout the years, right? And also because of what people are used to as sort of minimum acceptable standard, if you will. So in the past, because things were not very transparent, because things were complicated, you actually need someone to kind of advise you on what to do. But today, because there's so much more information out there, there are a lot more resources that you can kind of access to learn about investing, for example, right? Or to learn about banking, or even taking up a loan, that you feel more confident to sort of self-service. So it's partly generational, but it's actually driven by a number of things in terms of like what's out there, the resources out there, what's been the traditional or what's been the existing models of banking, if you will. Yeah, so, but I mean, if you think back about the proposition of a digital bank, right? So for example, making your returns very transparent, making banking very accessible and easy, right? Making things rewarding and being able to track and see your rewards. I think that's relevant to like all generations, right? Whether you're an older person or a younger person, you want to see how your interest rate that you're earning, you know, you want to see how much returns you're making on investments, and you want to see the cashback. So I think that doesn't change. But in terms of what models are people are comfortable with, it could be a function of kind of what they've grown up with. Yeah.
And I mean, were these things just not feasible back when you started in traditional banking? Like what you say, the philosophy towards money hasn't changed. Means even back then, if you told people, do you want to see your interests every day? They would have wanted, but were there limitations back then?
Yeah, I think some of it is technology driven. So some of it might be specific technology constraints around how, you know, what can be made up for, you know, so if you think about things like UI, UX, right? So user interface, user experience, you think about that experience on the app. In the past, there wasn't even that app, the banking app experience, right? You would be like, oh, an internet banking portal, right? Then prior to that, it would be like a passbook, right? And the passbook, then the user has to go down to the bank or machine and literally like scan that passbook, update, and then see a list of transactions. And then there's also like monthly statements, physical paper monthly statements that are sent to you every month, right? So some of these are real constraints. Like if the paper statement is sent to you every month, you only see that update monthly, and it doesn't make sense for a bank to send you a paper statement every day, right? But today, because things are enabled digitally and through technology, then you can open up your app and just look at that and see that returns every day, right? So I think certain things are actually now possible because the technology is possible today, or the cost to do certain things have come down significantly. Yeah.
I think the passbook is damn important to my mom. Like she just feels so much like, okay, passbook means it's real.
I mean, we laugh about it, but I think I was holding on to my checkbook for the longest time. You know,
exactly.
As a business, I think you were dragging me, kicking and screaming away from the checkbook.
Terrence, we live in the 21st century. He would still every month, you know, write and all, then tear off.
There's something romantic about the, you know, crossing stuff out and then having to use the language.
So two very different customer demographics here. Early adopter and like dragging, kicking and screaming.
But I mean, early adopter, like initially the teething phases, you know, when did you feel was the big change in how Singaporeans banked? Because I think for a lot of us, like, you know, being able to use QR codes to pay was like a life-changing moment. No more digging around, rushing to the ATM and stuff like that. But for you in the banking industry, when do you start to see people's behavior really switch like that?
You know, actually, this is an interesting one. I think not just for banking, but I think the point that everyone, like all generations across, really got on board with doing things digitally and being comfortable with things digitally is actually during COVID. Just because like there was no other choice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then there was like the Trace Together app. You have to get comfortable to say that you have to download this app and then you need to scan something to get going to places or, you know, that sort of thing. it kind of, in a way, forced everyone to just have to adopt this.
Yeah.
But now once you've done it, then you realize, actually, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, like for payments, to scan a QR, you know, like PayNow QR to scan that, or SGQR to scan that and make payments. That's so easy.
Yeah.
Once you've tried it, then you're like, okay, actually, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, because QR codes have been around for a long time and they were not cool.
Yeah, at least a decade
They were
before.
not. I remember last time, because I was doing marketing and all previously, and certain campaigns, whenever you hear, oh, there's a QR code, everyone will be like, who the hell uses QR codes? But COVID really changed everything.
Yeah, so I think that you know, so again, not specifically for banking, but really changing Singaporeans, you know, their comfort level across all generations. I think to your question earlier about how about the older generation, I think everyone, like, no choice, right? They had to. Yeah.
But are Singaporeans a special breed of any kind because of how connected we are compared to other countries? Or what do you feel that, or do you see differences in how digital banking is picked up?
Yeah, so I think one great advantage we have in Singapore is we have like a really strong digital infrastructure, and that's of course made possible by our government, right? So like everyone like has, I think almost everyone has like SingPass and MyInfo. So that allows you to, for example, open bank accounts or get your fields, your data fields pre-filled in very, very quickly. And so for us at MariBank, we leverage and we use that technology, right, together with GovTech. And so that allows us to allow users to open a bank account in like less than 3 minutes, all through the app, without having to like submit paper, you know, scan documents and so on. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, in terms of that, you know how sometimes when things feel very laborious, they feel, okay, you have done your due diligence. Coming back to the difference between digital and retail, if it takes 3 minutes to set up, like, what is the assurance to someone like me thinking that, okay, this app just won't disappear? Because if a bank like closes down, I know your branch, you know, I know the uncle there, I can go down, you don't take my money. But digital bank, like, what are the safeguards in place? Okay,
so I think one of the fair question. I think one of the safeguards is really that all bank account deposits, so in Singapore, so it's required, right, by regulator, are insured. So with MariBank, the same is true. So if you put deposits with us, your first 100K is insured by under SDIC, which is the same for all the other banks as well, DBS, OCBC, or all the other banks.
So it's insured in the sense that if whatever happens to that bank and all, like my money, I would still...
You'll still get back, and it's regulated,
And because you've been in the banking industry for so long, and with, you know, big institutions and all, the idea of trust in, you know, financial institutions, right? Like, I mean, you've probably seen a lot of things through crises and all that as well. How is the idea? What is the idea of trust in an institution? Like, how is that built up, and how is it like, you know, seeing an entity sort of had to build that trust from scratch, and then trying to you know, move it to a point where people, the public at large, says, oh, I trust this MariBank for what it's done in the last few years. How, like, is it easy to get to that state where you saw the institutions were before?
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting question, because there's a lot to unpack when you talk about this word trust, right? So if you think about banking and you think about traditional banking, a lot of that trust is built up from the fact that they've been around for years and years, right? So banks that have been around for like more than 50 years, more than 100 years, you can say this bank is an institution and has been around for that long. And they've got all that history behind it, right? But with a new player like MariBank, right, as I was sharing, we only launched in 2023, trust is built in a different way, right? So the way I think about how we're trying to build trust at MariBank is through that daily experience that you have with the app, right? The fact that you can open this app, every time when you open it, it works, it's reliable. It's not like the app is crashing on you. You can't see your details. You open it, it works. You can see the amount of money you put in the bank. You see your daily interest. If you spend on a card, you see your cash back, right? You can track these things. There's 24/7 customer service that's backed by humans. You can call us out anytime. And of course, as I said, that protection provided by, you know, the Singapore Deposit Insurance piece. So I think these are some of the ways that we go about building trust. The other one is also some of the partnerships that we look to build, right? So MariBank is part of a larger ecosystem that's owned by C. So we have partnership with Shopee. And then for our investment products, we are also partnering with Lion Global. And so they're one of Singapore's largest fund managers. So some of that trust also comes from the partnerships that we have. But a lot of it for the user themselves, I think that trust is in that experience, in that direct interaction they have with the bank.
So does that inform the amount of focus you put on, say, you know, engineering or user experience and all that versus what it is in a more traditional bank?
Yeah, so for us, that's super important in terms of the user experience. So we track things like how many seconds does it take to a page to load and things like that. So it's really important for us. On an annual basis, we run a number of customer research, a number of customer surveys in terms of both usability as well as like testing new features and products we want to roll out. But I think increasingly, I mean, to be fair, traditional banks are also paying a lot more attention to these areas. Yeah. But for us, it's absolutely important. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that you are partnering with Lion Global is the Lion Global Singapore Physical Gold Fund, which, I mean, we've spoken about, but like, I mean, what was the rationale behind offering gold through MariBank in a way that differentiates itself from other banks?
So I think, so Lion Global, right, we've actually worked with them on another fund before. It was actually our first investment product, which is the Save Plus product. So that product's done really well for us. And Lion Global's been a great partner for us. So I think it was very natural that we think of them as our partner for this product, the Gold Fund. What we try and do differently with this product at MariBank is we want to make it, again, and this is true to our proposition, what we stand for at MariBank, right, which is to make banking simple, reliable, and rewarding. So what we've tried to do with this product is to make it very accessible by reducing the minimum investment required. So typically with gold investments, there's usually a minimum sum required. Like typically with traditional banks, usually about $1,000. Even if you go through like fintech platforms, usually about $100. So we've brought that minimum down to $1. So just one Sing dollar, and then you can start an investment account with us and invest in gold. Yeah.
That means you can basically buy $1 worth in that.
Yes, you can buy $1 worth. Yeah. And I think the idea behind why we've done that is we wanted to make it very accessible, because if you think about the past, right, for yourselves, I don't know if you guys invest in gold or keep any physical gold at home, right? One of the challenges
under the mattress,
yeah,
from your wedding and everything.
Yeah, from the wedding. Yeah.
So I think there are or still are, there were and still are a few challenges when you want to actually invest in physical gold for someone, right?
Yeah.
One is, where do you go and buy this gold from? What's the quality, the purity of the gold? Then after you have it, where do you store it? As you said, is it under your mattress? Do you have like a little safe at home? That used to be this thing where people have safes at home and they store like jewelry, gold and all that in there, right? And so there's a certain barrier to overcome. The other thing is, if you didn't buy it through like gold jewelry or gold bars, then you try to invest online, you have to open a brokerage account, go through and buy like gold ETFs. So the idea we had was like, okay, as a bank, why don't we offer this and make it just really simple for users? So $1 to start investing. So it's not like something that's very high stakes and you get very worried about it. So you can just try it out. And then it's just done through the app with a very simple and kind of intuitive, user-friendly UI UX experience. So yeah, that was the idea behind it.
And I mean, what I understand is also that for this fund, the physical gold is stored in Singapore.
Yes.
Which, I mean, was the thinking behind this anyway? Because now gold is like the hot thing that everyone's talking about, right? How long ago did this idea come about offering this through MariBank? Because I'm assuming it's not something that's just of course the coincidence is there, but this probably was a lot of time in the works to offer this product.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've been partnering with Lion Global from the start, right, in terms of our investment products. So this was kind of something that we have been discussing with Lion Global together in terms of how do we want to offer this to our digital bank customers. Yeah, so it's been quite in the works. Yeah, but I think in terms of the timing, now is great timing, but the thing with gold is really we think about gold as also a store of value, right? So we're not trying to go in and out, or we're not encouraging our customers to be in and out of gold that way. It's really something you buy and you hold as a store of value. And I think the overall trend for it is positive in terms of it going up. But it is an asset that's volatile, right? So prices can go up and down daily. Yeah.
I mean, over the whole holiday period, the end of the year, last year and everything, I'm just reminded of like in Asian cultures, how gold is such a big part of our lifestyle, right? Not in the sense that I trade gold bars,
is it?
but just the idea of like, everything being like, gold, red and gold during Chinese New Year. And I mean, even like in Little India also, you see a lot of jewelers and all that as well. Is there any, like in terms of Asian retail investors and all, right? The relationship with gold, is that something that people have asked for in terms of like products to offer through MariBank and all? Do you see a lot of demand for gold? Yeah,
I think, exactly as you mentioned, right, Terence, like traditionally, I think in Asian culture, gold has always been seen as something precious, as a store of value and something that you want to have and keep, right? So I think we've seen that sort of interest from our customers as well. So I think it was very natural for us to then offer this product. and then make it very accessible by lowering the minimum amount to invest, making it very transparent within the app to kind of buy and sell and kind of invest in the product. So so it was definitely there. There's, I think, this inherent demand. And I think interestingly also we're seeing interest from like what we might call like younger generations as well. You might always think like it's very traditional, like it's like something old people want to buy and hold. But actually we see a lot of good interest from the younger segment as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that surprising to you?
I think in a way, yes and no, right? Because again, to the point we spoke about earlier, there's a lot more information and a lot more resources out there now. Right. So for people, even for the younger generation, they're reading a lot more. They're more aware of what's happening around the world. They're also getting more savvy around the money that they have, how they want to deploy this, how they want to invest that. And I think that's where we can come in and play that part. Yeah.
Is there anything that makes that process fun? Like, I mean, like, you know, now when I give 𝘰𝘧𝙂𝙂 to people, I always choose the app that allows me to send a sticker with it or something, and then they open and you know, you got this 𝘰𝘂. Is there anything that you're doing to make it fun when you purchase
Who do you send these 𝘰𝘧𝙂s to?
When I run out of cash and all that, then I'm supposed to send people 𝘰𝘧𝙂 rather than just send them money like that. I look for an app that is able to package it as with stickers and all that.
Is it? Okay.
It's extra effort. But I said, what do you do to make it fun when people buy into this the Gold Fund?
Yeah, firstly, we do have an 𝘰𝘧𝙂 feature. So in case you're looking for an app, a banking app with 𝘰𝘧𝙂 feature, we do offer that at MariBank. So please consider us. And we have different stickers for you to select from as well.
Terrence loves his stickers.
So
sometimes it's a sticker of himself. He sent me stickers.
Emojis.
So this year, since it's the year of the horse, we have horse-related 𝘰𝘧𝙂 sticker type things. So with the Gold product, I do want to say that it's an investment product. So while we try and make our banking app kind of like simple, fun, rewarding and so on, I think with investment products, we do want to be careful and not, because at the end of the day, it's an investment product. An investment product meaning that while it may give you returns, there's also risk and downside. So in general, for our investment products, we don't make it like very fun or have like stickers and things like that.
I thought it's just like your whole phone just like shines gold.
Like a lot of glitter or something like that.
All the icons all become gold.
So unfortunately, we don't do that for investment products. Just because we do want to let our users know that, hey, you are doing an investment. So we do want to differentiate that. But for 𝘰𝘧𝙂, no issues. We got the stickers and
Is there anything, I mean, along that line, is there anything as a digital bank compared to your experience in a traditional bank that you'll go the extra mile or do just to give more assurance to any skeptics out there?
So I think one is in terms of what we call like sort of educational content, right? We put a lot more of that into the app. And we also try and make that more accessible, because sometimes, with traditional banking, like whether it's like websites or even with the app, because there's so much out there, so it's like very hard to navigate and find it. So I think one of the things that we try and do is we make sure, like in terms of how you navigate the app, what's a natural, sort of more intuitive journey. So let's say if you're buying this product, let's say you're buying this Gold product, as you're scrolling down to look at information on the product, relevant information is surfaced to you. So relevant information meaning, for example, the risk rating of the product, the returns since inception, who's behind the fund, so our partner Lion Global, for example, they're behind the fund, and any kind of things that you need to know, like for example, when you buy this, is it instant or it takes, T+2 days, business days to settle and so on. So we try and make all of the relevant information show up during the relevant parts of your journey. So I think that's something we try and be very mindful about in terms of how we design the app.
I see. Just now you mentioned Gold as a kind of like a safe haven, or at least of de-risking your portfolio and all that, right? And then you also mentioned that some young people are very interested in it. But what do you tell them philosophically to think about Gold? Because I think like what you mentioned that it's hot now, right? And everyone thinks, oh, Gold, wow, the price is rising. But you were actually saying, hey, think of it more like safe haven now. So philosophically, how would you tell a young person to approach thinking about how much gold to have in his portfolio and all?
So I think typically with investments, generally what we would encourage is a more sort of diversified approach, right? So in a way, like don't put all of your money only in gold and then hope to buy and sell it within a few days. So that's not the approach that we would encourage our users to, or customers to take, right? So it's more to say, firstly, let me have an understanding of my cash flows and my overall portfolio, right? So what's that monthly cash in and cash out that I have? Cash out would be your expenses, expenditure, and so on, right? Cash in savings, returns on your savings, your salary, or whatever it is. And then from there, what can I afford to set aside? And then now you say, okay, what I'm setting aside for investments, I have a few different options. So gold is an option. I have maybe a money market fund. I have an income fund. So how do I portion that out? then that depends on that individual person's risk appetite, their time horizon that they can hold the investment for, the liquidity, maybe they need it, they might need it soon, So I think there's a few different sort of things to consider. So there's no like sort of blanket answer, I would say, oh, you should put X% in this. I think it depends on each individual sort of situation. But I think those are the main things I would say for someone to consider when they decide how much to put in gold. Yeah.
But I always see on YouTube, get rich in 3 days, all that.
Okay, no, I do not advise that, please, Arash.
Anything you see on YouTube, including us, anything you see on YouTube, don't
always
trust.
Question. Yeah. But I mean, across your span of being in the financial industry for 18 years, like, what would you say is different about the world of finance now compared to how it used to be? Yeah.
I think a couple things. Actually, I think one is that users are a lot more like demanding, if you will, right? Because now, for example, if you think about shopping, you go online to any e-commerce site or e-commerce app, then delivery times, now you're like going down from like 4 days to 2 days to like 30 minutes, that sort of thing. So people are a lot more demanding about having things real time. Right? So that's one. So I think you see that coming across into banking and financial services as well. So while it was maybe e-commerce that kind of started all of this, but now people are expecting the same to say, hey, why can't I see things go faster? Why can't I see in real time what's happening to my money? So I think that's one. I think the other change also, as I said, is there's a lot more resources out there now. There's a lot more information. If someone wants to kind of get educated on different investment products, they want to understand a little bit more about what's driving sort of interest rate, what's happening in the world in terms of interest rates and so on, there's a lot more resources out there for them. So I think these couple of things translate a lot into kind of like when you're designing a banking app, when you're building a bank from scratch, like MariBank, for example, how do you put users at the center of it to ensure that they get the best experience? Yeah, so I think that those are some things I would say.
And I mean, for you personally, being someone in finance,
yes,
like anything that strikes you as, it could even be something very exciting now that you didn't experience last time, or just things that are different. Yeah.
Things that are different than last time.
Yeah.
In some ways, banking is quite a sort of like stable and has, there are some key sort of fundamentals to the banking industry in terms of you take deposits, you lend money out. But I think how it's different is now how it's being delivered to users, right? In the past, again, we might go to a bank branch, you might talk to somebody if you need advice, but now you can self-service with the app, you see it real time, you can manage that yourself. So I think that's something that's quite exciting, to be honest. If you really think about it from like our parents or grandparents' generation to how it is now, it's really transformed quite a lot. And in those days, I can't imagine telling my grandma, to say, oh, you put your money in today, you can see that today, the same day, the interest rate that you earn. I think it's like just totally like sort of unreal for them. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that also is very interesting to me, about the Line Global Singapore Physical Gold Fund is the fact that the gold is vaulted in Singapore, right?
Yes.
And just thinking about the world out there today, and the uncertainty around the world, the idea of vaulting it in Singapore, that never struck me as like particularly interesting last time. Now to me feels like, hey, there's something there, right? For you, like, how do you see, how Singapore is versus how the rest of the world is, in terms of the volatility? How does that affect how you think people should think about risk and having like physical gold vaulted here in Singapore?
Yeah, I think that's a really key point actually that you mentioned, Terence, because that was for us also the appeal and the reason why we chose to partner with Lion Global on this product, because of the fact that it's number one, it's backed by physical gold, right, versus like sort of paper gold. Secondly, that the physical gold is actually vaulted and stored in Singapore. Because I think given what we're seeing around the world in terms of sort of macroeconomic and political sort of instability, Singapore has, in line with gold being a sort of safe haven asset, Singapore has also been considered a safe haven sort of place, right? We're very sort of stable, we're very neutral politically speaking as well. So I think the idea that the gold is vaulted and stored in Singapore gives an additional sense of security to the product. Yeah.
Does that make Singapore too boring though? Like we're so safe and everything. And the rest of the world is so exciting. We feel that helps our tourism and all.
I think that's one of our key selling points. That we're very safe and stable.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
That's your answer as CEO of MariBank, right? No, because we have heard that before. And I mean, it is something that you take with a pinch of salt. Predictable, stable, but it has its benefits also.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, going forward, like, what excites you about the space of digital banking, or I mean, finance in general?
Yeah. I think a few things, right? I think one, and again, back to the overall environment that we're in, right? So we're now moving into, and since last year, actually moved into a low interest rate environment. So I think increasingly, you'll see people trying to look for ways to deploy their money, right? So people are not just happy with just putting in a savings account and earning sort of a very low interest rate on that. Of course, there's a need to do that, and as I said, for certain different reasons like liquidity management and so on. But increasingly, you'll see more people kind of trying to be sort of looking out for different ways to deploy their money. And I think that will challenge banks, including digital banks, to say, how can I offer investment options that are kind of meaningful to the user, right? Generates interesting returns for them, balancing out risk for them, but also offer in a way that's accessible for them, that they can access this product in a way that makes sense for them. So I think that will be a space to watch. And I think there's a lot of interesting sort of assets that are out there, right? So gold is one of them for sure. And gold is like a very traditional and always kind of considered good store of value. Yeah. So I think you'll see more in this space. Yeah.
But I mean, from my layman understanding of banking and all, like every customer that a bank interacts with, there's a cost involved, right? But if the goal is to reach everyone, make everything accessible, how is that sustainable? Like what are banks doing differently that because I would imagine if you deal with a few very high net worth clients, right, your ROI might be bigger. But if you're trying to do for everyone, I would assume that the ROI is smaller. Then the question is, how is that sustainable?
Yeah, I think for us, we think about it differently. Actually, for me, if I can get to everyone and offer my products and services to everyone, I think that would be great. Because I think, again, it's back to our philosophy of banking. What we're trying to do at MariBank is really, through digital banking, make banking accessible to everyone. And that's how we've designed our proposition. That's why you don't have the huge hurdles like, every month you need to deposit at least 1,500 in salary crediting to our bank to earn a certain interest, or on your credit card you have to make a minimum of X dollars spend, or for investment at least make $1,000. Our idea actually is to make it accessible to everyone. That's why our minimums are $1 to start investing, $0 for savings account to open a savings account. No kind of fall below fee in terms of minimum balance you have to hold. So for us, actually, we do want to make it accessible and available to everyone. And I think for us, we see in terms of how we can scale, how we can grow overall. And because the fact that we're digital, we're not saddled with certain sort of legacy systems. We're not saddled with having to maintain physical infrastructure like branches or ATMs and so on. So that gives us certain advantages in terms of cost that we can then deploy into technology. Yeah.
I mean, I did want to ask, because you're CEO of MariBank, right? So how do you think about the trends ahead? Because in the digital space, things move so fast. And in fact, some people, there's even a reversion towards people buying old point-and-shoot cameras rather than using a phone. They're taking out their Discman, their old vinyl players and all. People sort of going backwards in time to stuff from the 90s and all that, right? Do you see trends like that and then think about, okay, how do we as a digital platform, how do we also speak to those customers who are starting to seem to want to go back to earlier time when stuff was a bit more inconvenient and all? Do you think about that in how you think about your future plans?
Launching a passbook.
Limited edition passbook.
Limited edition passbook.
Yeah, so I think what we try and do, so there's a few things, right? When as you said, in terms of how we think about what's coming up next, in terms of our future roadmap as bank, what will roll out to users. One is very much driven by sort of user feedback. Right, so there's user feedback that we collect, for example, through studies, research that we do, speaking to users. The other one is user feedback through how they're using the app, right? So we can also see there's certain features that kind of, a lot more users click on that. Some features that people don't like or don't use as much. So that's one, through user feedback. The other one also, of course, is more just generally saying what else is happening around the world, right? So obviously we don't live in a bubble, so we can see what's happening in other markets, whether it's in the West or in the East. And some of that also informs what we try and do here in MariBank in Singapore. Yeah, so I think that there's a few different sort of factors or drivers that kind of shape our roadmap and kind of what we roll out next and what we do. But a big part of it's really our users. So we actually actively also try and get feedback from users. So within our app, we have this little section where as a user, you can actually share feedback with us in terms of your experience with the app, or ideas or new products you want to see or new features you want to see.
So how would you draw the line if a lot of feedback saying, I would like a branch, a physical branch.
A physical
branch.
In MariBank colors.
How does the philosophy of MariBank kind of like guide you when it comes to questions like that?
Okay, so we can't have a physical branch because we're a digital bank. But in terms of how do we think about, like, say we get feedback on different features or different enhancements that users ask for, then we basically see kind of like what is driving that. Is that because they experienced some sort of inconvenience? Is it because things were not transparent? They couldn't figure out where to find this information within the app. So we see, so it may not come in the form of, the resolution may not come in the form of directly building the feature that the user asked for, but it's more to kind of, so it's kind of like asking the whys, they're like, why did the user ask for this? Like, why is it like that? Why? And then we figure out what's the root cause, and let's try and address it from there.
Is there anything you've seen elsewhere, not in Singapore, that is really futuristic in terms of digital banking? Like, for example, when I went to China last year, I think I was hiking in a very rural part, and then I saw this lady selling old little toys and knickknacks made of wood, like handmade out of wood. And then I wanted to buy one for my kid. And then when I said I wanted to buy, she whipped out a QR code for me to scan and pay. And it just blew my mind that everyone there is so connected via digital banking. Is there anything you've seen elsewhere that is so futuristic that you feel like eventually it will come here as well?
Yeah, so I think not necessarily like so far away, or that we look elsewhere. But I think one thing is, something that you just mentioned, Terence, which is that easy real-time payments, right? And enabling anyone, like you said, it could be this merchant or this woman, selling toys by the side of the road. How do we enable that? So one is, there are two parties to this, right? One is the merchant, so the person selling the whatever the thing it is. The other one is the person who's trying to buy or make the payment. Then in between, you have that in-between layer as well, right? So what we're trying to do is really to say, how can we make it real time? And increasingly, how do we make it cross-border as well? So you can transfer money overseas to, like, say, China or India, and it goes across in real time. And so we're actually very excited at MariBank because we're one of the few banks that actually have now enabled that for our users. Actually, I think we're the only digital bank in Singapore who has enabled that in terms of cross-border transfers, and then with instant transfers for two key corridors, which is India and China. So we'll look at more of that. And then, like, to your point around payments, right? So let's say scanning QR payments. So again, we're the only digital bank now that's on SGQR. So that we're accepted very, very widely in terms of payments. So a lot of these things, it's like enabling everyone across the board. I think, and that's when it becomes like, wow, it's no longer just for a privileged few. It's no longer just for the few who know about it, but everyone has that. And I think that idea itself, like democratizing all of that access itself, to me is quite groundbreaking.
Is the rate of change like getting faster and faster in terms of rollout of features, trends, consumption habits?
For us, yes, that's something that we kind of pride ourselves on, our ability to roll out something in like every 4 to 6 weeks. I think in a traditional bank, the cadence you see is more like 6 months typically, just because, again, due to certain systems or processes and so on. So for us, that's quite important.
So, I mean, personally for you, like, you've been in finance for 18 years. You've held very high positions, but how does that feel different compared to now being CEO? In some way, leading the charge at the frontier of what's happening. Is that, that must be stressful, I don't know, or do you thrive under the pressure?
Yeah, so for me, it's been really exciting actually. I'm really enjoying the role. It is quite different when you're a CEO and sort of running it end to end and having to be responsible and owning everything. But for me, it's been very exciting. It is stressful at times for sure, right? But it's been very exciting. I've really enjoyed and learned so much from the journey, and I'm still learning every day.
User experience, UI, UX is like your jam now. You one look, you can and this detail needs to be changed and everything. Is that sort of skill? I
think I'm getting there. Not quite yet. But still learning every day.
If we went back to Natalia from 18 years ago, do you have any idea of what finance would look like 10, 20 years down the road back then? Or like even, because in the positions you held, I'm sure there was some future planning and all, right? When you look back, do the dots kind of line up, or the way things are improving now are beyond what people used to think about?
In some ways, yes, you could see sort of like a bit of the early signs, right? I think the truth is with banking, there's traditionally there's been a lot of friction. We talked about some of the friction. Like, for example, like if you want to get an update on your account, you had to maybe in the past bring down your passbook and go to a branch, or like scan it into a machine and get it updated.
Yeah.
Or you get monthly statements, or if you're not sure, you have to call the bank to find out. So I think we could see some of these signs right there, that there was friction, there were pain points along the way. Or like, for example, when you get your rewards or your credit card cashback, you're like, oh, how did I arrive at this number? Some of these pain points have been there all along. So it's what has enabled us to kind of now resolve and solve these pain points. So in a way, you can say, some of it you could see it some years ago, but at the time, across industry, nobody really had a good answer to it. Or it's kind of this is how it's done everywhere else, right? So that's just what it is. Like, everyone has to just go to a branch and queue up to get whatever they need from the bank. Or you just have to call up and just wait online.
What blows my mind, because I used to work in finance like 20 years ago, the idea that casual Fridays, you could actually, now I hear that in certain like investment banks and all where I used to work, you can actually wear like even Bermudas on casual Fridays. That blows my mind, because last time casual Fridays was still like a white shirt and khakis at the very least, khaki pants.
So in terms of that, what changes have you seen in finance?
For sure, that one for sure.
Change, right?
Big change in terms of office attire. And I think for us, MariBank, because we're a digital bank and kind of startup, so we're actually super casual in the office.
So it's casual Thursdays, casual Wednesdays,
every day.
In fact, if you wear the orange color, then you get a better appraisal, is it? The company colors, brighter colors.
Thank you for calling out company colors. But no, just to clarify for our employees who are listening in, no, you don't get a better grade if you wear orange.
But I mean, when you say a startup, that means do you also kind of adopt certain, everything you hear about startup, like move quick, break, that sort of mentality where you want to make use of the leanness of what you have as a company. Is there a lot of that in the way you all operate?
Yeah, so I think there's certain aspects of that, of a sort of startup culture, if you will, at MariBank, right? One is the fact that we are actually building a lot of things anew, and we're challenging what we call like sort of industry norms or industry way of working. So that's that. There's the certain agility in terms of that speed and pace at which we roll out things and the pace at which we deliver work. And there's that ability, because you're joining us at the start, to get your hands in, like roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty and sort of be involved. And I would say it's a great learning experience compared to if you went into a more traditional bank that already has certain structures, processes, and departments in place. A lot of it here is still kind of quite fluid, right? But I think the other part that I would balance off is to say that at the end of the day, we are a bank, right? So customers are entrusting their money to us. So there isn't that kind of whatever, like Silicon Valley type thing, like move fast, like break things, or whatever that saying is, like break things and so on. Yeah, we're not breaking things here at MariBank, and we should not, because we're a bank at the end of the day. So there's a number of safeguards that we put in place, certain things around risk management and so on. Yeah, so those are, and there's certain things that we're subject to, right? Sort of like capital requirements that we have to hold, liquidity ratios and so on. So those are all still in place. Yeah, so there's a good balance, I would say, between the sort of like a bank and all of the risk controls that come with running a bank, but a sort of a startup is kind of building something new and trying to do something different in the industry.
So move fast, but don't break things.
Correct. It's just like insert don't. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I mean, MariBank is still somewhat young-ish. What are some things that you feel people still maybe get wrong about the brand that you would like to clarify, and what are some things that you would like people to know about MariBank?
Oh yeah, okay, thanks for that. Yeah, so I think one is that because MariBank, as you say, is quite new still, so not many people know about us as a standalone bank because we're part of the C ecosystem, right? So we also do a lot of tie-ups with Shopee. So I think initially one of the perception or misperception is that we are only useful for like if you're shopping on Shopee.
Yeah, because it shows up as a payment option.
Yes, right? It's one of the payment options on Shopee. And it's actually a great partnership that we have with them in terms of creating that convenience and payment and sort of that shopping experience. But actually you can do a lot more with MariBank other than just shop and pay on Shopee, right? So as I mentioned, we do have savings. We have borrowing products as well. So if you need to borrow money in terms of cash loans, we have credit cards, debit cards, and then of course we have a very strong investment suite. Yeah. So I think that's something to be aware of. Like we have a full suite of products. We're a full bank. The other thing is we serve both retail as well as SME customers. So if you're a small business owner or if you're looking for a banking account, I think MariBank can also be a good option. And I think that's another area that we didn't touch a lot upon. But one of the things we're trying to do is actually get rid of a lot of fees that business owners encounter when they open a bank account.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't know about the SME thing. And I mean, like what you said, I also thought, okay, this is some bank from, I don't know, Japan or something that Shopee just happens to have a partnership with when I saw that payment option. Yeah, so I mean, it's heartening to know that you offer the full suite.
That's right. Yeah, we do. Yeah, and I think that thing I do want to mention also is about the aspect around sort of security, right? Because I think there's always the thinking to say, oh, if you're not a physical bank and I don't see that physical branch out there, is it safe to bank with you guys?
Yeah.
So I think one is the fact that all the deposits are secured by insurance, and that's a requirement anyway by the government in terms of bank deposit insurance. The other one is the security features are actually what's embedded in the app. So what we've done is instead of investing the money in physical infrastructure, we've taken that and put it into technology and made the app a lot safer. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
I mean that's good to know. And I think over the past few years, even like retail investing, it's good to know that people are realizing that you can do more with your money. I think like I grew up, maybe the previous generation, if your parents came from another country, the focus was, survival and all. But now I think, it's good to know. And I always think, I wish I started sooner. I wish I started earlier. Which is why it's nice to know that from your perspective, younger people are more interested.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's something that I really do encourage for people to be more mindful about their money. Because I think in the past also, one is the means to be able to do that. The other one is knowledge and, information. How do I handle all that? It's in the past, I think investment was just a very daunting thing. Because firstly, investment is like, wow, what do I invest in? There's like so many different options. There's like equities, there's like bonds, like money market. Like what's the difference between all these things? The other thing is like, okay, now how do I invest? I have to open like a brokerage account, or I have to like speak to some RM or something at a branch, and sometimes that itself is very daunting. Then after that, I need to invest minimum like $1,000. I think what we've really tried to do is like lower the barriers across the board, right? So the information's within the app. The minimum amount to start investing is $1. Right? And it's nothing that you have to be very worried about because we've already kind of pre-selected for you. Here's a couple of investment options within the app. It's not like a list of 100 that you choose from. So I think that's really changed quite a lot. And it is very encouraging that people are looking at it. And I do encourage people to be mindful about how they manage their money and look at the options available.
I mean, what you said about SME banking also actually, I think resonates even with us as, running a small business. Where a lot of times we feel like, hey, we are the S in small SME, we are really that small, and you are pretty much a price taker when it comes to services that you use and all. So if there's some way to empower SMEs to feel like, hey, I'm in more control of the process and not just a price taker. I think that is, that's an interesting approach to it as well.
You managed to convince Terence. I told him the same thing a few years ago. He's like, no, I want my checkbook. I want my physical checkbook to write. But now he's open to a digital bank.
Open. Because, now I feel empowered.
Yes, look into it. Yes.
So wait, I mean, when you meet your family and friends are gathering, do you say, I'll only talk to you if you open up an account?
No lah.
Okay.
But I do answer their questions about like what credit card to choose. Can you tell me more about the Gold product? I do answer these questions
de facto person,
at the family gatherings. Yes.
I see. But cool. I mean, thanks so much for sharing. We will put the links to what we discussed in the show notes.
Yes, sure.
And I mean, all the best with the future of MariBank and your own journey. We just have one more question to ask, which is the one Shiok Thing that we end every episode with. I believe you have something, but we'll still go first. So you have a bit more time to think about it.
Sure.
Terence, you have your one Shiok Thing?
Since we're in that space of talking about banking and all, there is a book that was, I think, a previous guest on our podcast did recommend before. It's called Capitalism and Its Critics that I'm reading now. Maybe it's the longest book that I've read in years. That's the truth. I don't know. In my e-reader, it says 1,000 over pages. I haven't even got through half of it. But it's a very interesting look into history through the history of capitalism through the eyes of its critics. So these are people who wrote papers against capitalism. That means they were more left-leaning or socialist and all. And it's very interesting to see how they view the growth of capitalism and a lot of industrial change during the eras. Like the way that I see how these economists wrote about the cotton mills, for example, how they displaced workers and everything. I actually see a lot of parallels to what we are experiencing in the world today, like when people talk about AI replacing jobs and all, and the things that people are writing and saying about that. So I recommend it as a challenging but interesting read. It's not for everyone, but I've always felt drawn to go back to it even after I don't read it for a week or two. There's always something I learned from it, or something, it's an aha moment that I was like, wow, 200 years ago, people were experiencing what we are experiencing today also. And then you see the cycle of history and the cycle of change in our economy. It's a cycle.
Okay. Have you heard of that book?
No, I've not, but it sounds very interesting.
Very interesting, yeah. Economist Donald Low came on our podcast and recommended it.
Okay.
I just looked at it, I was like, 1,000 pages. I'm not going to get through this.
How thick is it?
I mean, my ebook's like that.
Oh, your ebook.
It's a big book, it's challenging, but it's rewarding. Yeah.
And you can read it in bite sizes.
Yeah. The chapters thankfully are spaced out nicely. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mine is also something about something written. So it was a post on this website called the Marginalian, who writes very thoughtful pieces about things that she has read, or books, or her own thoughts on life and the meaning of life and all that. And I think it's quite over the years it's grown quite a bit. But there's this one post where it's titled "Telling is Listening, Ursula K. Le Guin on the Magic of Real Human Conversation." So it refers an essay written by Ursula K. Le Guin, but it talks about the essence of what the essay was about, which is how the importance of conversation. And I can't remember what made me want to read this. I think I was just talking to someone or a friend about why it is important for people to talk to each other. And one of the things that they share is, I like that they use analogies of if you take amoebas, right? Conversation, the beauty about amoebas is when they reproduce, there is a exchange both ways of the content within each amoeba. So they both leave the exchange in some way better off than they used to be. And conversation is in some way like that, but it has to be two-way conversation. If it's just conversation one way and listening the other, there's no equal share of knowledge or info. But I like the thought of after every conversation, people leave change in some way. And she goes on to describe it quite a bit with diagrams and stuff. But I thought, actually this is an interesting way to hammer home why it's important to converse and just chat with people.
The Marginalian is a website.
It's a website. It's like a blog.
Okay.
But now it's taken on a life of its own because it's quite big. I think she's now written her own books or compilations and all. But very, very nice articles of good length. So this one, she refers to quotes from that essay and just shares her thoughts.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's just about the importance of conversation and listening.
How interesting.
Yeah. All right.
nice.
It's the most intellectual thing I've heard you recommend.
I know, man. So pressure's on you, Natalia.
So my one short thing.
Normally Terrence will have something, then there'll be this video of this person eating a pie.
Yeah, usually.
So my one short thing is also something written, and it's definitely a book because I'm a big fan of books. So I'm in this book club where we read books all the time. So my one short thing is a book. It's actually written a few years ago, and also it touches on AI as well. So this book is called Clara and the Sun. So it's a novel by Kazuo Ishiguro. And it was written, as I said, a few years back. So it's not recent to now the whole Gen AI and the whole debate about ChatGPT and all these things. But definitely it was written time when already there was the beginnings of all of that. And it explores themes of sentience, explores themes of human relationship and interaction with AI.
So it's a novel.
It's a novel. Whether we can have emotional attachment, can AI bots have emotional attachment to humans? So it's not for everyone, but I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a quite interesting read in terms of raising questions about given that we're now in an age where the sort of Gen AI, and we're using, I don't know, I'm sure you guys use that every day. Do you guys use that very often?
You mean AI in general?
Yeah, in general, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
So I think, at MariBank, we also enable our employees to have, AI tools and so on. So it's very much now a part of everyday life. Then it's what is the form that it'll take in future? How will that evolve, So of course the book doesn't answer these questions because it's a novel, but it raises those questions indirectly or directly when you read it.
It's like Her lah, the movie, right? It doesn't answer. It just explores this very.
Yes. So I enjoyed it. Yeah.
But your book club, do you choose this book because it's topical about AI, or do you just randomly choose?
So normally we choose based on a few different, like there might be recommended lists from different places and so on. So this one somebody recommended because it was like on a recommended list, got good reviews. Yeah, so not so much because it was like AI and topical to AI.
Okay,
it's more because it had good reviews in terms of writing and so on.
So you're done with the book already?
That one, I read that book, I mean, 2 years ago maybe. But it's still quite fresh. It feels quite fresh. But it was also a book that was polarizing in terms of within our club when we discussed it. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it.
I guess that's a good book to discuss.
I was going to say, that's why I thought that was a good one. Versus like everyone's like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, that kind of like motherhood, apple pie thing, everybody all agrees and there's nothing interesting
Was
there.
it your suggestion for the book
No, it
club?
wasn't. It was my husband's.
I see.
Was it?
Giving credit.
Was it in Japanese then translated to English?
No, written in English.
Oh,
Written in
okay,
English.
okay. Oh,
Wow,
interesting.
huh?
Yes.
Oh, cool. It's being adapted into a film.
It is?
Apparently on
According to AI.
on Wikipedia. It's being and it's likely going to star Jenna Ortega, Amy Adams. Oh, big stars.
big names.
Natasha Lyonne.
All right, now there you go. My one
here
Shiok
first.
Thing.
Okay. But yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Natalia. I mean, very informative. I mean, we really will consider that whole SME option.
Oh yeah, for sure,
yeah.
definitely, yeah. And I think also interesting to clear up the misconceptions that people have when they open up Shopee and everything.
Yeah, and now we also know if you've got any questions, we can ask someone.
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, cool. Thanks so much for joining us.
So Harish, what do you think of that discussion with CEO of MariBank, Natalia?
I mean, interesting, because to be honest, I've seen MariBank so many times as an option on Shopee, but I mean, I never Googled about it much. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, it's probably going to be another bank that I have to sign up for through multiple steps. And I never did. And I had no idea that they offer all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, quite interesting to know. And the philosophy behind a digital bank.
Yeah. I appreciated that she kind of like brought us back to the days of what banking used to be, right? And yeah, actually now we've come such a long way, not just in terms of, now it's easier to do your transactions, but just in terms of, the relationship that you have with the bank, right? It's now everything just feels so much, faster and easier. And you don't think about, give me a couple of days to make this transfer and things like that. Now it's just almost immediate, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of helps to lubricate your relationships with your partners and suppliers and stuff like that as well, right? When stuff can be done so much faster.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of the quantum of how much you transact on your phone, remember like even 10 years ago, if you wanted to buy something, right, you wouldn't buy it on your phone.
Yeah.
Right, you go desktop.
Yeah.
Now you can buy an air ticket that's more than $1,000 on your phone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's even easier on the phone sometimes to buy on the phone. Yeah.
It is. Because if you go on desktop, then you have to click your credit card certification and shit like that. So I mean, in some sense, the digital bank, I mean, like what we said on the podcast, even for our own company, it's something that we haven't really considered, but might want to.
Yeah. And like what she said, it's like, do we really need the physical presence of the banks these days? And what is needed to maintain the physical network of bank branches and everything can be put into technology and security, which is actually the more important part these days, right?
Yeah. When was the last time you went to a physical bank?
That's a great question. I think ATM, yes for Chinese New Year, draw money and all. But physical bank, it's been a while, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I mean, it's still young. Of course, with all this, you never know. There's always going to be like positive hype around it. But interesting. And I mean that gold thing. Now gold really, the timing for them is perfect because this year and last year has been the hot property.
Yeah.
So I mean, interesting
and the fractional ownership, right? I think that is an interesting thing that I didn't think about. That like what you used to need to have like minimum, size of your account and before you can actually transact or anything.
Yeah.
Now it's $1 for them.
And I mean, I guess even in Singapore, opening up a bank account is not as complicated as what it maybe used to be.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Because last time, you have to get the passbook and all that. So, I mean, interesting. I mean, hopefully everyone listening also found it at least insightful, whether or not you want to go with them. At least you understand more about MariBank. All the links are in the show notes. Please check them out. And if you enjoyed it, just share the episode with someone who may not have heard of us. And also follow us on social media for shorter clips. And if you want a consolidated newsletter every week with all our One Shiok Things, you can sign up for your little bit at yalabad.com.
And if you want to work with us, please email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or check out ministryoffunny.com. We have our portfolio there as well as a contact us page.
Sweet. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.